Steve Bartman incident. During a Major League Baseball postseason game played between the Chicago Cubs and the Florida Marlins on October 14, 2003, at Wrigley Field in Chicago, Illinois, spectator Steve Bartman disrupted the game by intercepting a potential catch. The incident occurred in the eighth inning of Game 6 of the National League Championship Series, with Chicago ahead 3-0 and holding a 3-2 lead in the best-of-7 series. Moisés Alou attempted to catch a foul ball off the bat of Marlins second baseman Luis Castillo. Bartman reached for the ball, deflected it, and disrupted the potential catch. If Alou had caught the ball, it would have been a second out in the inning, and the Cubs would have been just 4 outs away from winning their first National League pennant since 1945. Instead, the Cubs ended up surrendering 8 runs in the inning and losing the game 8-3, when they were eliminated in the 7th game the next day. The incident was seen as the first domino in the turning point of the series. In the immediate aftermath of the incident, Bartman, a lifelong Cubs fan, had to be escorted from the stadium by security guards, and was placed under police protection for a time when his name and address were made public on Major League Baseball message boards. In 2011, ESPN produced a documentary film exploring the subject as part of its 30 for 30 series, titled Catching Hell. The film drew similarities between Bill Buckner's fielding error late in Game 6 of the 1986 World Series and the Bartman incident. It explored the incident from different perspectives. Foul ball incident. During Game 6 of the 2003 NLCS at Wrigley Field in Chicago, at the time of the incident, Mark Prior was pitching a 3-hit shutout for the Cubs in the 8th inning. The Cubs led the game 3-0 and held a series lead of 3-2. They were 5 outs away from reaching the World Series for the first time since. The Cubs had not been baseball's champions since. Luis Castillo was at bat for the Marlins with 1 out and a full count, with teammate Juan Pierre on second base. Bartman was sitting in the front row along the left field corner wall behind the on-field bullpen, when a pop foul off the bat of Castillo drifted toward his seat. Cubs left fielder Moisés Alou approached the wall, jumped, and reached for the ball. Bartman attempted to catch the ball, failed to secure it, and in the process deflected it away from Alou's glove. Alou slammed his glove down in frustration and shouted at several fans. The Cubs, in particular Alou and Prior, argued for fan interference, but umpire Mike Everett ruled there was no interference, because the ball had broken the plane of the wall separating the field of play from the stands, and entered the stands. Cubs manager Dusty Baker didn't see the play as it happened, because the curvature of the Cubs dugout blocked his view. Everett's ruling has been heavily scrutinized over the years. For example, the authors of Madball, the Bartman play, argue that photographs show Bartman's arms extending into the playing field and that Castillo should have been called out due to fan interference. On Fox, Tom Brenneman called the play this way. For the Cubs and Marlins. Following the incident, the Marlins scored 8 runs, continuing his at-bat. Castillo drew a walk. Ball 4 was a wild pitch from Prior, which allowed Pierre to advance to third base. Ivan Rodriguez, on an 0-2 pitch, singled to drive in the first run of the inning, making the score 3-1. Miguel Cabrera hit a ground ball to Alex Gonzalez, who misfielded the ball. Had Gonzalez fielded the ball, the Cubs could have either ended the half-inning with a double play, still ahead by 2 runs, or at least added the second out. Instead, all runners were safe and the bases were loaded. Derek Lee doubled, tying the score and chasing Prior from the game. Relief pitcher Kyle Farnsworth issued an intentional walk to Mike Lowell, then gave up a sacrifice fly to Jeff Canine, giving Florida a 4-3 lead. Cubs right fielder Sammy Sosa missed the cutoff man, allowing Lowell to move up to second base. The Cubs issued another intentional walk to Todd Hollinsworth, which again loaded the bases. A bases-clearing double from Mike Mordecai broke the game open, making the score 7-3. Mike Remlinger replaced Farnsworth and Juan Pierre singled to put Florida ahead 8-3. Finally, Luis Castillo, whose foul pop initiated the controversy, popped out to second to end the inning. The Marlins had sent 12 batters to the plate and scored 8 runs. Florida won the game 8-3. The next night, back at Wrigley Field, Florida overcame Kerry Wood in a 5-3 deficit to win 9-6 and win the pennant. The Marlins went on to win the 2003 World Series, beating the New York Yankees 4-2. The Cubs did not win another playoff game after the incident until 2015, when they defeated the Pittsburgh Pirates in the wild card game. But they were swept in the NLCS by the New York Mets. In 2016, the team advanced to the World Series for the first time since 1945, ending a 71-year-old drought. By some accounts, this represented the end of this particular curse, since the Cubs had won the NLCS pennant, which they were unable to do in 2003. The Cubs then overcame a 3-1 deficit to defeat the Cleveland Indians in the 2016 World Series, ending their 108-year drought, which was reported by media to be the end of this curse, and others including the curse of the Billy Goat. For Bartman, Bartman remained seated as Fox repeatedly broadcast live shots of him between multiple replays of the foul ball. The somber image of Bartman wearing a Cubs baseball cap, glasses, headset, and green turtleneck shirt became memorable, because there were no replay boards or jumbotrons in Wrigley Field at the time. No one in the crowd knew of Bartman until many of the attendees' friends and family members, who were watching the game on TV, started calling them on cell phones, informing them of Bartman and his appearance. Many Cub fans began pointing toward Bartman, repeatedly chanting, "Asshole." Bartman had to be led away from the park under security escort for his own safety, as many Cubs fans shouted insults toward him and others threw debris, with one fan even dumping a cup of beer on him. Security escorted Bartman and 2 people who accompanied him to the game toward the exit tunnel from the field. News footage of the game showed him surrounded by security as passersby pelted him with drinks and other debris. Bartman's name, as well as personal information about him, appeared on Major League Baseball's online message boards minutes after the game ended. As many as 6 police cars gathered outside his home to protect Bartman and his family following the incident. Afterwards, then Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich suggested that Bartman join a witness protection program, while then Florida Governor Jeb Bush offered Bartman asylum. After the incident, Bartman released a statement, saying he was truly sorry. He added, "I had my eyes glued on the approaching ball the entire time, and was so caught up in the moment that I did not even see Moisés Alou, much less that he may have had a play." Trying to maintain a low profile, Bartman declined interviews, endorsement deals, and requests for public appearances, and his family changed their phone number to avoid harassing phone calls. He requested that any gifts sent to him by Florida Marlins fans be donated to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. In July 2008, Bartman was offered $25,000 to autograph a picture of himself at National Sports Collectors Convention in Rosemont, Illinois, but he refused the offer. He declined to appear as a VIP at Wrigley Field. In 2011, 8 years after the incident, He declined to appear in an ESPN documentary, and he declined a six-figure offer to appear in a Super Bowl commercial. Many fans associated the Bartman incident with the curse of the Billy Goat, allegedly laid on the Cubs during the 1945 World Series after Billy Shawnees and his pet goat were ejected from Wrigley Field. The Cubs lost that series to the Detroit Tigers in 7 games, and did not return to the World Series until 2016. Bartman was also compared to the black cat that ran across Shea Stadium near an on-deck Ron Santo during a September 9, 1969, regular season game between the Cubs and the New York Mets. The Cubs were in first place at the time, but after the cat appeared, the Cubs lost the game, and eventually fell 8 games behind the Mets in the standings, missing that season's playoffs. On Fox, Tom Brenneman said of the incident, as well as the Marlins' subsequent rally, "It's safe to say that every Cubs fan has to be wondering right now, is the curse of the Billy Goat alive and well?" As of 2013, Bartman still lived in Chicago, worked for a financial services consulting company, declined interviews and, although still a Cubs fan, had not returned to Wrigley Field. On October 2, 2015, Cubs fan Kek Escobedo created a GoFundMe campaign seeking $5,000 in donations to send Bartman to the 2015 National League Wild Card game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. While the campaign was more than halfway finished, Bartman declined the offer. The funds went to the Alzheimer's Association instead. During the 2016 Chicago Cubs season, Bartman received renewed media attention as the Cubs progressed through the playoffs. In mid-October 2016, at the time the Chicago Cubs were playing in the 2016 NLCS, the Chicago Sun-Times reached out to Bartman's attorney and spokesman, Frank Murtha. As is usual, Bartman through Murtha declined an interview. On October 23, 2016, the Cubs were again at home with a 3-2 lead in Game 6 of an NLCS similar to the 2003 NLCS game. The Cubs ended up winning that game and moving on to the 2016 World Series. After winning the pennant, many Cubs fans petitioned for the team to allow Bartman to throw out a first pitch during the 2016 World Series. However, Murtha told CNN that Bartman did not want to be in the spotlight, and that there is probably a slim, none, and no chance that Bartman would agree to throw out a first pitch. The World Series went on without Bartman making any public appearances. On November 2, 2016, the Chicago Cubs won the World Series for the first time since 1908, ending the so-called curse of the Billy Goat. After their World Series win, Murtha said, "Was just overjoyed that the Cubs won, as all the Cubs fans are." Further, when calls were made for Bartman to be a part of the victory parade, or other similar ideas, the one thing that Steve and I did talk about was if the Cubs were to win, he did not want to be a distraction to the accomplishments of the players in the organization. Destruction of the Bartman ball. The loose ball was snatched up by a Chicago lawyer and sold at an auction in December 2003. Grant DePorter purchased it for $113,824.16 on behalf of Harry Caray's Restaurant Group. On February 26, 2004, it was publicly detonated by special effects expert Michael Lantieri. In 2005, the remains of the ball were used by the restaurant in a pasta sauce. While no part of the ball itself was in the sauce, the ball was boiled and the steam captured, distilled, and added to the final concoction. Today, the remains of the ball are on display at the Chicago Sports Museum, while further remains are amid various artifacts at the restaurant itself. Moisés Alou. In April 2008, Moisés Alou was quoted by the Associated Press as saying, You know what the funny thing is? I wouldn't have caught it anyway. However, Alou later disputed that story. I don't remember that, he said to a writer from the Palm Beach Post. If I said that, I was probably joking to make Bartman feel better. But I don't remember saying that. Alou added, "It's time to forgive the guy and move on." In the 2011 documentary Catching Hell, Alou states, "I'm convinced 100% that I had that ball in my glove." Defense of Bartman. After the incident, the Cubs issued the following press release. Several Cubs players publicly absolved Bartman of blame. Mark Pryor said, "We had chances to get out of that situation. I hung an 0-2 curveball to Ivan Rodriguez that he hit for a single. Alex Gonzalez, who's a sure thing almost at shortstop, the ball came up on him, and things just snowballed. Everybody in the clubhouse and management knows that play is not the reason we lost the game." Former Cubs pitcher Rick Sutcliffe said that the crowd's reactions to Bartman crushed him. "Right after I saw what happened with the fan, I woke up the next morning and told my wife that if the Cubs asked me to throw out the first pitch in the World Series, I was going to take that fan out to the mound with me," he said. Baseball Commissioner Bud Selig also came to Bartman's defense, telling an interviewer, "While I understand that people felt so strongly and that their hearts were just breaking, to blame this young man, who is the most devoted Cub fan, it's just unfair. When I read his statement, it broke my heart. If you want to blame the curse of the Bambino and the GOAT in Chicago or a series of other things, that's fine. But blaming Steve Bartman is just not right." Several of Bartman's friends and family members spoke out in the days following the incident. His father told the Chicago Sun-Times, "He's a huge Cubs fan. I'm sure I taught him well. I taught him to catch foul balls when they come near him." A neighbor added, "He's a good kid. A wonderful son, never in any trouble. I don't think he should be blamed at all. People reach for balls. This just happened to be a little more critical. If Florida didn't score all the runs, you wouldn't be standing here." Sun-Times sports columnist Jay Mariotti wrote, "A fan in that situation should try his best to get out of the way, even if he isn't of the mind to see Alou approaching, as Bartman claims. Still, he's also a human being who was reacting in a tense, unusual moment, and the resulting verbal abuse and trash hurling, followed by the Neanderthal threats and creepy reaction on the internet, hasn't reflected well on Chicago's sports culture. As it is, everyone thinks the prototypical local fans are those mopes from the Superfans skits on Saturday Night Live." In a 2011 interview on ESPN's Pardon the Interruption, Cubs president Theo Epstein expressed a desire for the team to reach out to Bartman from afar. "It seems like it would be an important step, maybe a cathartic moment that would allow people to move forward together. I'm all about having an open mind, an open heart and forgiveness. Those are good characteristics for an organization to have as well. He's a Cubs fan. That's the most important thing," said Epstein. In 2012, former Cubs player Doug Glanville said, "It was easy to look at Steve Bartman, but that was not the whole story by a long shot." He argued that the Cubs lost the momentum of the series when Marlins ace Josh Beckett shut down the Cubs in Game 5. Glanville drew parallels between that game and Barry Zito's game-winning performance in Game 5 of the 2012 NLCS. 2016 Cubs victory in World Series. Through spokesman Frank Murtha, Bartman congratulated the Cubs in the World Series championship victory over the Cleveland Indians. Murtha did not state if Bartman watched the series, but did say that Bartman did not attend the Cubs victory parade held in Chicago. MLB.com and ESPN have both reported that Cubs owner Tom Ricketts has shown interest in reaching out to Bartman for some closure at the right time. Later on, Cubs president Theo Epstein stated that Bartman is welcome to come back, but at his own discretion, and that he should be left alone. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.